so excited to bring to you our final episode. We have a very special guest, one of our favorite authors, Camille. And I'm so excited to interview her for you guys and for you guys to take part in everything that she has going on. She is a total gem, and I think you're going to be just as captivated as we are by the time the interview is over. So let's go ahead and bring her in.
Today we have a special guest, author, tech pioneer. You wear so many hats. How should we describe you? Tell us how we should describe you.
Wow. Okay. So first, probably foremost author, then entrepreneur, like you say, little tech diva, goddess. No, just all of that.
Okay, so we are here with author Camille, one of our favorite authors. So we know that we are totally biased in this interview, and we are not ashamed to admit it.
Basically.
But
I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yes. Like we stand all day. Bought all the books, paperbacks, apps.
Just everything.
Everything.
All the things.
Mug, everything. Exactly.
All of it. Merch.
Exactly.
So, Camille, in case you did not know, she is officially 52 books. Is it 52 books?
I thought you were telling my age for a minute.
No. 52
I didn't know that was
into.
Okay. I was like, hold up. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, yes. 52, 53 came out yesterday though. So 52.
Yes.
Awesome.
Right.
Yes, that is so great. And you've been writing since 2014?
2015.
2015. So that's definitely an incredible feat. We know you crank them out.
You do. And you stick to it. I think like when you say you're going to do something, you stick to it, or if it doesn't happen, like you're very transparent about it, which is awesome. So you can actually look forward to some dates because you're going to get a really good read.
Right. I appreciate that because that's really important to me, to keep my word and be a woman of my word, to deliver when I say I'm going to deliver. Of course, this thing called life happens sometimes, and you might get a little off track, but I do always try to be transparent about what's going on and to give some concrete information about that. So thank you for letting me know that you appreciate that.
Absolutely. I think let's get to it. Let's get right into it. So we kind of touched on this a little bit with introducing you, but you wear so many hats and have so many different interests. How did you find your way into writing?
Well, I was an avid reader for a very long time. I actually started reading romance books probably I was around like 13 or so. And those were like Harlequin books. So I started, because that's all there was. So it's Harlequin books. So started reading those, and then just my love of reading led me into writing, because the books that I wanted to see, I wasn't seeing them anymore. And so I decided to create what I wanted to see and see if there was an audience who also wanted to see the same thing. And luckily for me, it was.
Yes. Fun fact, and please don't. Fun fact, because I'm about to spill a little bit of tea. But speaking of Harlequin, it is my understanding that you actually submitted a manuscript to, was it Harlequin, Kamani? The Kimani
It was
incident?
Harlequin then. Yeah, it was before Kimani. So there
Okay.
was Kimani yet.
Okay.
There really was, Arabesque was very new. There was no Kimani. So it was still primarily all dominant culture white books, right? And so I wrote a story, and like all my friends read it and all my coworkers read it, and they were like, oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. You should send it. You should send it, right? So I sent it to Harlequin, and one day I came home and the manuscript, because that's when you had to like print it out.
Oh, wow.
And mail it. So I came home and a big envelope was like thrown on my porch, and it was my returned manuscript. And they actually said that they did not publish books with Black characters at the time.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And for...
So I just put that away, and, you know, I was like, okay, fine, you know, and went on with life. Until, like I said, I didn't, but then, you know, not too long after that, that's when Arabesque got bigger. So there were more Black books, and then it became Kimani, and this is this. But after time, like I said, I didn't see this type of books that vibed with me. So I was like, okay, well, talked to a friend, and I was like, and she was feeling the same way, like, you know, I'm not really vibing with the books that are out right now. For a while actually, and she was like, so I was like, I could write a book. I wrote a book before, and she was like, okay. So I was like, okay, well, bet I'm gonna write it then. I'm gonna write it, and so that's how we got Black Magic.
Yes.
Woo.
Jordan Black.
And the rest is history. No, and 52 books later, here we are.
Yes. And just in case, you know, people who are watching didn't know, Arabesque was actually an imprint of BET Books before they were purchased by Harlequin. So again, another case of, you know, Black businesses being bought out by mainstream, and we kind of
dissolve.
We're losing our voice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I know you're going to go into this, but that's why it's so important to me about controlling your talent and your brand. And that's what I do. But I know we're going to go into that a little bit later, so I don't want to jump ahead of you. But
Absolutely.
All right, so diving into just like some of your stories. Some people say like the best stories are actually personal. Do you tie like your personal life journeys in any of the stories or characters that you develop?
I will say that there is a part of me in every story. So I'm not saying like I am the characters or I have lived experiences. Some I do. I have lived experiences in common with some of the characters. But when I say a part of me is in every book, it's like a part of something I've read or something I've seen or something I've thought about, you know, or something I've discussed with somebody or, you know, something like that. So that interested me when I saw it or talked about it or woo, woo, woo. And so I bring it into the books like that. I put on for my city. No, but you know, I love Detroit. That's my home, although I don't live in there anymore. But just like you said, in mainstream, Detroit gets such a bad rap, you know. And when I would meet people and I was there from Detroit, you know, it would just be horror the first thing, like, oh my God, how did you grow up there? But you know, I had an amazing experience growing up in Detroit. You know, so and I wanted to relay that, and like you said, I do address a lot of the things that are in mainstream because they are true. It's not like they're fictional, but I also wanted to show the other side of Detroit. You know, that people who don't live there don't get to see. You know, it's a beautiful place, but it also has, you know, its downsides, and so which is like most places. You know, if you pick out the best part, it's the nicest. If you don't, it's not. So, you know, it was very important to me to show my city in a more favorable light, but still touching on, you know, the subjects that are in mainstream. So not to like make it a fairy tale or gloss it over, but to try to show it with a balance.
Right. Right.
Right.
And I think that is expressed in like your writings, like Devona said, you really do kind of get a true picture, a nice snapshot um, of all the things. It's not like you know, highlight it in a one way but without talking about like it's just real. It comes across as real and authentic. So
Yeah. And speaking of real, I know one question that we both had as avid readers of romance. I know that we didn't necessarily state this in the beginning, but D. Camille is a romance author. She writes romance. She writes romantic fiction. She writes romantic suspense. She writes women's fiction, but a bulk of her catalog is in the realm of romance. And I think as readers, one thing we noticed in the last 5 years when indie romance has become so popular, especially Black romance,
yeah.
has really like taken off.
Right.
I'm sure there are a lot of factors there that we don't have to get into today. But one thing that drew us to romance, you know, back in the day when we were teenagers, just like you, was kind of that fantastical element of
Right.
romance and the fantasy. And, you know, there are things that you read and you're like, oh, it's so great. I know it won't happen in real life, but it's so awesome. It's like your getaway from reality.
Right.
Now there tends to be more realism in storytelling. So in addition to the romance, there are character arcs that tend to intertwine trauma or, you know, generational curses or just like overall toxicity. There's even like an element, someone actually pointed this out to me a few days ago. There's an element to romance now where we even see like our characters having conversations via text and we're like reading a page of text messages. Um, but that's not something that we're seeing in your writing. I think you still have a lot of elements of fantasy, like both figuratively and literally, with your characters in the Diamond series. And, you know, a lot of the heirs have, you know, gifts, spiritual gifts. So how is it that in this wave or trend where we're seeing a lot of realism, you've kind of stuck to the traditional elements of romance?
I think that's why I started writing, because I think that's what was missing. Right. So when I said, like, when I started writing, we weren't finding books that vibed with us. Right. So I think that's what was missing, was that the stories, the stories that I read from the the authors that I consider great. So the Brenda Jacksons and Beverly Jenkins and Carmen Greens and Melanie Schuster's and Frances Ray's. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Like, the list was incredible. So the thing about their stories were that you connected to the characters and you became a part of their lives, right? And the stories would pull you in and you would just go on this journey with the characters, right? Whether good, bad, whatever happened, woo, 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 but you would go on the journey with these characters. And that's what was kind of lost to me in the stories. I didn't feel connected to the characters. And in some cases, I didn't feel the characters connected with each other. So it was hard for me to really get into that. You know, it was like, in the stories, you need to make the reader feel a part of the experience. That's why they sat down to read, for the experience. Okay. So you need to make them feel a part of the experience so they get lost in there. And then if it's a true romance, in the sense of romance, when they come out, it should be this glow just all around them of happiness and joy and giddiness and just, like that. That's the point of a romance. And I wasn't coming out like that. When I was reading, I was coming out like, oh, okay, we're done.
Been there.
Right. And you have happily ever afters.
You do.
It's the journey. It's the journey, and people should feel like they've been taken on a journey, and a happy journey, that may have its issues in between, but it ends like, you don't go into a romance to read it for the couple not to be together at the end. That's not a romance. Okay, that's not a romance.
Right.
It's a different genre, but it's not romance. So, I try to stay true to the traditional meaning of romance, to give those stories in romance when I'm writing a romance story.
Cool. And it's appreciated.
Thank you.
That, definitely. So you mentioned taking your readers on a journey. And I have to note, for those that aren't aware, but it doesn't always end when the series ends. So you've also created a space for your readers to where they can catch up, check in on some of their favorite characters. So within the last 2 years, you have launched an app, and most recently your Diamond site. So you've launched the app where we can actually read your books. You've launched the Diamond site where you have podcasts, conversations with your readers, as well as I guess you would say blogs or updates on your characters throughout different series, and even special stories that we may have met them within a series, but you've also given us a little extra highlight to them. So not a dedicated book, but we're still able to keep up with things that are going on in their character journey. So I guess after finding so much success in writing, why did you feel the need to kind of give us, because that's a gift from you to your readers. It's like a gift to us.
Okay.
Why did you feel the need to do that for your readers? And at the same time, I like to know kind of the why behind just even all of the different avenues that you do have.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to break it down. We can kind of
start with the app. I was like,
we can kind of chat about the app.
We'll start with the app.
I'm like, let me pay attention. So the app.
So let's chat about the app first, and then we can dive into your Diamond site and what everything that encompasses the Diamond site. But yeah, so let's chat about the app. What drove you to wanting to provide your readers with a platform where they can access your work?
So I think most of all, it's about walking what I talk, right? So in a lot of my books, I talk about controlling your industry, having your own brands, generational wealth, all those types of things. So in thinking about that and thinking along those lines of what I write, I was like, okay, so now I need to put that into practice so that people can see, I'm not just talking and what is possible, right? And so I was looking at Amazon and the way that Amazon does some things I was not happy with. I did not want to continue to just be an author who technically gives my talent to someone else and then allows them to sell it. Okay. So I looked into, I'm like, so how do I do this? How do I control my talent and how it's delivered and how it's presented, right? So I looked into, I had actually seen a mobile app done by a publisher. So it wasn't a single author, it was a publisher who published different authors. And I thought that was a really great idea. I hadn't seen any singular author do it, which I understood why, because you would need a pretty big catalog to make it, worth your while to do. And you would also need to be able to continue to create a lot of content to maintain it. So I looked into that and I got all of that information, and finally we were able to get everything set up, get the app done. It's been ups and downs with the app, but we're still in that phase where we're tweaking and getting things right. And because there's basically nothing else out there like what I've done with a singular author with an app, there's really nothing to compare it to. So the developers are like working with me, and it's a learning process for all of us, So they're like, yeah, we've never had one author who wants to put up our own books. So yeah, so it'll be coming up on a year. So we've tweaked a lot of stuff. We still have some more things to tweak, but we're consistently working on it. See this little thing right here? Can you see it?
Yes, we see
From
that.
my developers, they sent this to me for being the most innovative app developer that they have for my content, my design. So I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, I hope that in doing this, that others will see that you can take control of your brand and your time. It's work. It is. It's work. It took a year to develop it. We're a year into testing it, and we still have things that we have to work on. So, but it is a platform that I do see getting better and better, and it's something that I see growing more and more, and something that I hope to see other authors use in the future to control their own brands. Now, even if not as an individual author, at least as a group to do it, So that's the app.
Awesome.
Okay.
I mean, I love the app, mind you.
And love the idea of, like you said, taking ownership of your brand and publishing your own work. So take us into the Diamond site. So a little backstory for the audience. Camille is like all the other creatives and had a Patreon site. And yes, we paid our $7 for all of our stories.
Yes, did.
And all of our character inspos and we paid our $7 for everything. But recently, as Sherry mentioned, you launched the Diamond member site, which is your very own Patreon in layman's terms.
Yes. I went from my own Amazon now to my own
Right.
I'm excited about the Diamond site because, like I said, it's another tool for me to have control of my brand. When I was on the Patreon, it was a little too constrictive for what I wanted to do because I wanted a more hands-on with my readers. So I wanted a site where we could actually interact, in real time, So started the Diamond member site. Yeah, it has all that good stuff on there, stories and diaries and updates and information and our own little chat room and things like that. So I'm looking, podcasts like you mentioned before. So I'm really looking to create a community that's not just for books. I want to create a community that fosters the lives that I write about in books and helps people to live those lives that I write about in books. So, I don't want to leave it as though, okay, that's my author. That was a good book. That was cool. But, I want to write things that inspires people. And then I want to give them a place to bring that inspiration and have it fostered. So that's what I want to do with the membership site.
Awesome.
So excited.
So my one question is, do you plan, or do you have limits with who can access, or how many people you want to have access to some of these things?
So I am, at the end of this month, I am closing the app to new readers. I want to lock down the group right now and really start to fine tune everything that I'm doing instead of trying to teach every new person that's coming on the same system over and over again. So I want to take some time and just work with the group that I have when it locks, right? So during that period, we'll be, testing the app, seeing what everybody likes, because we just put out a book and it was like we had arrows on the book and people didn't want arrows, and then we took arrows off and now everybody's like, where's the arrows? So to beta test with this group, to make the app as good as it can be, to make the Diamond site as good as it can be. And then when we do open back up, it will be more on a referral type basis. So people just won't be able to, because like I said, I'm fostering a community of like-minded people. It's more than books. If you want to read books, read books. But what we're building over here is more than books. So if you're interested in more than books, if the books really mean something to you, you get something out of them, it touches you in some way, you want to communicate with other people who feel that same way in a safe, private space, then that's what we're doing over here. So yes, we will be closing down the app to the current numbers. I don't have a number of readers that I want, because it's not about financials with this part of it. It's really about the vision that I have and the people that I want to touch. So it's more of that, I would rather work with a group of people who are like-minded and want to do the same thing than out here chasing people just to get them, to buy a book. It's not about that. So
right. Cool. Right.
Yes, and we know that you are all about Black love, Black knowledge, and Black excellence. So, we are happy to be a part of the community. The rest of y'all just don't have to wait.
Don't have to wait. You don't have waiting list. Get a referral from Devona and Sherry. Yeah. Right.